Okay, well, good morning and welcome to the January 15th, 2026 meeting of the New York City Campaign Finance Board. The first item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes for the last meeting. I move their approval. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Next item on our agenda are my opening remarks. In today's meeting, the board will be voting on enforcement matters, public funds payments arising out of the post-election audit process, complaints relating to two campaigns from the 2021 election cycle, and a change to the Campaign Finance Board's rules. That's all I have. I'll turn it over now to our Executive Director for his report.
Thank you, Chair Schaefer. Good morning, everyone, and Happy New Year. With the candidates who won November's elections sworn into office and their transition and inauguration activities winding down, CFB staff are primarily focused on post-election audits, 2026 special elections, and beginning preparation for the 2029 city elections. This year opens a window of opportunity to assess and make improvements to our internal processes and technology, ensuring that our programs run more smoothly and effectively in the 2029 elections than ever before. We intend to take full advantage of this opportunity. To inform our assessment of current systems, we issued a post-election survey earlier this month to all 2025 general election candidates, treasurers, and campaign staff, with a response deadline next month, Friday, February 13th. These anonymous and confidential survey responses will help us identify our strengths and, more importantly, our areas for improvement. So if you received this survey, please take a few minutes to submit a response. Today's the due date for filing the January semi-annual disclosure statement for all past election cycle campaign committees still in operation. In total, we expect up to 736 filers across 11 election cycles. Disclosure statement filings are a key part of the CFB's oversight and transparency work, and these semi-annual disclosure statements are an important checkpoint for campaign finance compliance. For candidates who ran in elections last year, this filing is also critical to ensuring accurate disclosure and submission of documentation that supports timely completion of post-election audits. This week, we also launched registration for the 2029 election cycle, and we've already had several 2029 candidates register. Needless to say, we remain very busy here at the Campaign Finance Board, and we're excited for this new year. Thank you. Back to you, Chair Schaefer.
Thank you very much. The next item on our agenda will be a vote on complaints against two candidates from the 2021 election cycle. Our staff has recommended the dismissal of these complaints, and we will now vote on it. The first was three complaints against Andrew Yang's campaign, a candidate for mayor in 2021. I move that we dismiss the complaints. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstention? The motion carries. The second was a complaint against the campaign of Joseph Packer, a candidate for city council in 2021. I move the dismissal of that complaint. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstention? That motion carries. We have a number of enforcement matters on our calendar for this morning, but only two appearances. So we'll proceed with the appearances, and then we'll take some time off, should deliberate, and come back and vote on all of the enforcement matters. The first appearance scheduled is that of Amoy Barnes. So please come up and have a seat over here, and our staff will take a seat over there.
Morning.
Good morning. Good morning. So why don't you begin by introducing yourself?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Aaron Foldenauer, counsel to Amoy Barnes. Amoy.
Good morning, Amoy Barnes, former candidate for New York City Council.
Good. So I'm just going to briefly describe how we proceed here. I'm going to ask the staff to make a short opening statement, which really is not an argument, just teeing up what the issues are before us. And I'll turn the floor over for you for whatever comments or presentation you wish to make. Board Staff may want to respond. We may have a few questions. We'll go back and forth until everybody's satisfied and then we'll be done. Okay?
Good morning, Chair Schaefer, members of the board, Executive Director Ryan, Ms. Barnes, and Mr. Foldenauer. I'm Hillary Martin, Interim Senior Counsel for the CFB. Appearing with me today is Marvo Lindsay, an auditor at the CFB. Before the board this morning is the matter of Amoy Barnes' campaign in the 2021 election for City Council, District 49. The campaign was a participant in the program and received public funds. CFB staff recommends that the board find the campaign committed one violation of the Act and board rules for exceeding the expenditure limit. The campaign contests this recommended violation and penalty.
Okay, so that's what's before us. You have the floor now.
All right. Thank you, members of the board. And it's a pleasure to be here some years after Amoy Barnes' candidacy. And this is a candidate whose campaign spent over $255,000. And she didn't have a campaign finance lawyer at the time, but was overwhelmingly in compliance. Out of $255,000, there was a slight overage over the expenditure limit of just $3,615. So very small overage, particularly in connection in the context of the overwhelming amounts that were spent. And what the penalty recommendation is from the staff is a dollar for dollar penalty. So in other words, she went over the limit by $3,615. And therefore, the recommended fine was $3,615. We think that that's too high. We think that's unfair. Ms. Barnes was overwhelmingly in compliance. This is really a de minimis violation in the big scheme of things, in the scheme of the $255,000 that was spent. So therefore, we're asking today for the board to use the discretion that the board does have to reduce the penalty to a very small amount, or simply rule this as a de minimis violation and mark it as a violation, but with no fine. And with that, I'll turn it over to Amoy Barnes just for a quick word.
Thank you so much. Thank you to the board. First, I want to say thank you to the staff. I was a pandemic candidate. And as a pandemic candidate, I want to say that the staff of the CFB was overwhelmingly responsive and engaging. And I just want to say thank you first and foremost to all these amazing employees. I am more than happy to pay a fine if given one, but I would prefer if that fine was the minimum fine, or if there was no fine. We did our very best during a very difficult campaign season to be as compliant as possible and to stay on track with the rules and regulations. We were so grateful to have access to campaign finance, and I wouldn't have been able to run for office if it wasn't for matching funds. So thank you so much for this opportunity, and I hope you'll consider our request.
Any response?
Just wanted to point out that the expenditure limit is core to what the CFB is trying to do here to make sure everyone has a fair chance. And unfortunately, there's also no way to rectify this after the fact. Campaign has already received the advantage.
Right. Okay, well, that is true, and we will also consider what you have said. Obviously, the degree of the penalty will depend upon the amount of overage. So you've received the 1-for-1 penalty is the lowest that is in our standard. But as you point out, we do have some discretion, and we'll deliberate and consider what you have said. So thank you very much.
I have a quick question for CFB counsel. How high does that penalty go? So if the lowest penalty is a 1-for-1 penalty for the amount of the overage, how high if for small overages? If the overage had been quite large, how large, if you know, does that penalty?
It goes up to 3 times.
3 times.
Yes.
It ranges from 1 time to 3 times with the number of steps in between, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a small overage, and part of it is a documentation issue. So for example, there were postcards that were sent out in the out year, and the candidate doesn't have proof of a postmark 5 years later. And so it was counted against the expenditure limit, even though we don't believe it is. But again, it's a small overage and part of it comes down to documentation, but really a small overage in any event.
Very good. Okay, I think we've got it. Thank you all very much. The next appearance relates to the campaign of Joseph Packer. Is there somebody here on behalf of Mr. Packer? Sorry. Come on up. Okay. Try to be louder. Well, good morning. Would you like to introduce yourselves?
Good morning. My name is Joseph Packer.
And I'm Rhonda Brown Moore, the treasurer.
Great. So you heard me say before that we'll ask the CFB staff to sort of explain what the issue is before us, and then we'll turn the floor over to you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Schaefer, members of the board, Executive Director Ryan. My name is Shana Iden. I'm an attorney for the CFB. I'm joined again by Marva Lindsay, a CFB auditor. Before the board is a matter of the Packer campaign in the 2021 Democratic primary election for City Council District 47. He was a participant in the program and received public funds. CFB recommends the board find that the campaign must repay public funds in the amount of $37,881, with $23,659 in recommended candidate liability. The campaign contests this recommendation.
Thank you. Floor is now yours.
Oh, first of all, I appreciate being, I didn't think it was going to be a formal hearing. I thought, I done came quite a few times to the campaign finance. I used to meet with an individual. We go over those expenditures. The only thing I know about those expenditures that they were saying that we still owe money for some documents that they didn't properly have, and we had submitted those documents to them. So I was really caught off guard when they told me we still have an expense. I think there was also an issue that during the campaign there was some challenges to certain things that we've done that done improperly, and we had also justified that we had did everything to correct those particular issues. The amount that they're saying is really weird because we got money so late in the campaign and we weren't really able to do much with the money that we got from the campaign. And I thought the campaign was really for people like us who don't have the money to go against, you know, those particular individuals who usually run a regular ongoing campaign. We just had a little street campaign. So we just gave us no financing. Like I said, we got the money so late, it was really hard to mount the campaign. Most of our resources that we used was, since we got it toward the end, was just to pay people to help us out, to make sure we get the word out. And so I don't see how that we can really owe anything because everything we did, everything we got from them, we pretty much put in the street.
But Joe, we got to address the issues, which were the corporate. I see the biggest penalty was something about corporate contributions. And we said we did not host the event. We didn't have any expenditures for that event. But I think because his face was on the flyer, this was a 9/11 and they were only discussing people that had passed from Coney Island. He's been a Coney Island resident over 60 years. So he's a community activist. So that's why his picture was on there. But to surmise that person now, because he is a candidate for council, that was we hosted the event was untrue. And there was another thing with the United Auto Collision. You have to explain to them that it wasn't a discount.
No, with that is, we use an operation. It was, matter of fact, it was an auto car dealership they had, and they had several mechanics that was there, and the gentleman who owned the business had heard about me and said, "Listen, we can help you with the outreach that you want to do." He said, "I have guys here that can drive, and we can probably put the literature." So he had his workers actually drew up a contract and say that they'd be able to suffice and work and be able to do the outreach and do the distribution for the area. So we wrote a contract, and obviously he wasn't able to fulfill it. So we gave him a deposit originally and paid the deposit. And then we told him that we can't continue to work with him because it wasn't fruitful for us. They weren't able to reach the amount of people that we need to touch base with. So we wound up just paying them, and we closed the contract off. But they thinking that.
They said it was a discount.
Yeah, they saying that we got a discount. We didn't get a discount. We just unfortunately got someone who couldn't do the operation the way it had to be done. So we just cut the contract short. We didn't pay him the balance of the money that we would have paid him if he was able to complete the contract.
Did you want to respond to these?
Those two issues that you just mentioned were brought up in the enforcement notice, and your response resolved both of those issues. So that's not an issue today.
So those,
Can you walk through,
you've already gotten the benefit of having resolved those issues. Those are not the ones before
right,
us.
can you walk through, because I think there's
Yeah, 'cause
not just for each one, walk through what the expenditure is for which we are saying that we have not received documentation so that they can respond.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
So it is a long list. I'm not gonna be able to walk through all of them. However,
Start with the biggest.
yeah.
Yeah.
So in the enforcement notice, and this one is still outstanding to date. There was two expenditures to Timbuktu
That's the.
Incorporated, where we needed, there's a third one that I missed. Thank you, Margot. Where we did not receive a lease.
You didn't receive a lease.
We did send a release, but y'all said y'all wanted another one, and he is no longer available. And that's what we said. It's closed down, the place that we were renting out. So we said we don't have a new lease because I don't know, is he still even alive?
Well, he was in critical. He was on life support. I don't know if he's still around, but the place closed down.
The place closed
The
down, so
resident
we weren't
used.
able to get a new lease, but we did submit a lease to Campaign Finance.
Do you have a record of having received any lease at all?
No, we don't have a record of receiving a lease. They did state in their enforcement notice, the response to the enforcement notice that they provided a lease. However, during our review, there was no record of a lease. However, the campaign provided 3 copies of checks, one for $7,000, one for $1,750, and one for $3,500. That wasn't sufficient to qualify these expenditures.
That's why we can't get a new lease from the guy because he is
Don't
unavailable.
have a lease.
Yeah.
So it's not a
We
new,
have a lease.
We have a
We
lease.
have a lease and we'll submit it. They don't have a record of, but we did submit one.
Yeah.
It's been going on for a while, but we do have,
You still have
Yes.
the copy of that lease that we have a copy too?
yes,
okay, let's just pause on
had
that,
that.
because that's issue number one.
Okay.
We're saying that we cannot
And I understand
have public funds for an expenditure for which there's no documentation.
documentation.
Okay,
Understand.
so
Okay, we got it.
the first one is the lease, and that's for how much?
It's a total of,
Of like 12,000.
So that's a large amount.
Yes,
yeah, that's a big
What was
piece.
the amount? 12?
12,250
7,000.
payments.
Penalty.
3,500 and 1,750.
Okay.
Just to clarify, these are not penalties. These are, you receive public funds.
Oh.
You have to document, and there was insufficient documents to justify
Okay.
using public funds for those amounts. Because as far as Timbuktu, for example, it could be Timbuktu. We have no idea who it is.
Right, understood.
No,
No, but
makes
that's the name of, that was the name of the.
I understand. That was
I get it.
name and
Right.
explain why there's.
We have a lease. We got a
We
lease.
have a lease.
Okay, let's move on to that.
For one.
Okay, so that's the biggest one.
That's the biggest-
issue number one. Let's keep going.
So the second largest was to RMB Accounting Services.
That's me.
That was for $5,000. And that was partially qualified by the response to the enforcement notice. However, it's from the documentation that we got, the expenditures cover services through August of 2021, which makes them improper post-election. So we could qualify the first part, but not for the last, basically.
How much is the first part of the 5?
So it was qualified for $2,405.06. And the remaining that wasn't qualified is $2,594.94.
And you understand the reason that was not qualified is because it pertained to post-election expenditures rather than during the campaign.
But this was for the whole campaign. They gave me $5,000 because I'm R&B Accounting Services as the treasurer. Because we got stuff late, it was for throughout the whole thing. I did all the work for the election, the submitting of the disclosures and everything. So we got the money late, and that's what it was for the entire campaign.
So you're saying that payment for $5,000 was retroactive
Right, remember,
for the services that you provided
during
the campaign for which you were not paid,
right.
and then you were given a check for $5,000
And it was for the entire campaign.
and for the entire campaign.
And in terms of your work on the audit, what makes you conclude that this was for post-election work?
Based on the term in the contract.
I see, just the term of the contract itself.
It's August 2020 to August 2021.
And in a situation like this where the term of the contract extends past the election, but there is a claim that notwithstanding that it related to work done during the campaign, what other than the oral testimony that we have here today, is there anything else that you would normally look at to determine the validity of this claim that it was made for work done during the campaign?
Yeah, my name is on all the submissions, so that, I hope that it should be enough.
Time checks were written.
I see. And what do you have in that regard here?
I only have a copy of the lease right now. I don't have a copy of the checks.
Okay, we can pause.
Okay, we'll pause. Let's move on to the next one.
And the next one that they responded to, although they were able to reduce it significantly, was Janitor Reddy with a similar issue that it went through June 22nd, 2021. So we were able to actually qualify 3,313 of that. So the remaining amount is 167. So we can go to the next.
And for what kind of services were those?
Janitorial.
Janitorial, thank you.
Timbuktu.
Yeah, okay. Keep going.
And that was the same scenario where it was calculated based on the term of the contract that we were presented with.
Okay.
Are there any other large amounts?
Right.
Because the repayment amount that's recommended is, I believe, 38,000. So we had the $12,000 for the lease, and then the 5,000 for the accounting services. Are there any other large amounts?
We've got 2,500 for the accounting services.
Yeah.
Portion.
2590.
Portion that's,
Exactly. So there's a few that are there. It looks like there are two that are 3,500, and then it goes.
And what are the 3,500?
Events and designs. And that was one that was also not qualified because it was a post-election expenditure.
In some of these circumstances, we understand where it's listed as a company, that the checks were made out to individuals as opposed to the company. That's what we understand. Is that correct?
For this one in particular,
Well,
I'm not sure.
some of these, I understand it's for some of these expenditures where it's listed as a company, that if you look at the actual payment, it was made to an individual. Is that accurate?
No, not to my recollection. What do you mean?
And what's the other 3,500 for? You said two.
WE2 Global, same issue, post-election expenditure.
And what is that for?
I think we can allow her to.
Yeah, this is all, like I said, we got the money late. These services were all done during the election. So maybe we didn't do something right in our submission or the invoice, but these things got paid after the election, but they were for services during the election.
Well,
What are they? Sorry.
the,
The event and design was people that did a catering and a design event for us. We had like trying to get campaign fund right.
Campaign launching.
Yeah. And what was the other?
WE2 Global.
That was to do our social media.
Social media.
when you say the term extended beyond the date of the election, are you referring to a contract term?
For two of them that we received documentation for, we received MOUs in response to the enforcement notice. The terms had a date, an end date that were after.
Okay, so I want you to understand why they did what they did.
They did.
So it's not just that the payment came in late, but when they looked at the contract itself, it had a date that extended beyond the date of the election. Now, you're saying the services were all provided before the election, but the contract date went beyond.
Right, and probably because we assume, like, you don't know how long a contract is going to do for certain services. So I think we made the mistake of putting those kind of dates, but this was all work done during the election.
Can I ask, one thing that confuses me, there's this lack of understanding of the bills,
Definitely.
lack of paperwork. And I don't understand why it wasn't resolved earlier. You got 15 extensions for over 600 days. So why are these things still unresolved and not understood? It's a lot of time to.
That is a great question because I made it my trip. I made a trip here repeatedly. Myself, my wife, and also Rhonda. We came at least several times, and we produced the documents they're talking about. They got the lease that was already presented. We had a different person who monitored. The guy David he did a great job. He went over the events with us. He documented stuff. He put it down. He put it on microfilm, whatever. He gave it to us. He said he checked it off for us. He said it was taken care of, and then we received after he left, we got another person that came on board and took over for him. And they said most of the stuff was already resolved. We thought most of
We thought it was
we thought it was all, everything.
Well, many things have been resolved and there was obviously some.
Yeah, but the lease was one.
Full back and forth that resolved many of the issues. I think we have to deliberate a little bit on this, but one possibility, and I'm not suggesting because I haven't consulted with my colleagues on the board, but one possibility would be to adjourn this to the next meeting to give you a chance. You say you have a copy of the lease, and that's the single biggest item. It is a little bit odd that it's taken us this long to figure out that the issue is the presence of a lease and you say you have it, but the records don't show it ever having been submitted. But one possibility is we could delay this one meeting and at least get that issue resolved.
And indeed, consistent with that, take that list, that chart,
I am.
phone call or something. Go, they have the chart, you have the chart, and see what the explanations are so we can figure this out.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to suggest that anybody's to blame here. I mean, I think everybody has tried to proceed in good faith, although very slowly in this case, but okay, it is what it is. But we do try to be fair. And so let us consider, whether we want to sort of give you one last chance to satisfy the staff because their concerns are quite legitimate and proper. And we'll discuss that in deliberations.
Okay, appreciate it.
Right? Anything further that anybody would like to say?
I just have a quick, for council. Right now, you're not suggesting a penalty on this campaign. You're just saying that certain of their expenditures, you're not saying that they are not campaign expenditures, but they don't meet the higher threshold of documentation required for a public funds payment.
Correct.
Yeah. So to use taxpayer money,
I understand.
there's a high burden and threshold of documentation to demonstrate.
We appreciate that.
Okay.
All right.
I got a clearer picture than what I was under the impression, and I seen the penalty, 10,400. I thought that was part of that 37. I didn't think it was expenditure. So that's my understanding and my misfortune of not understanding.
It's okay. We're not a formal court. We try to resolve things and get to the bottom line as to, because the goal is for people to comply. The goal is not to penalize people for not complying. So we'll take this all into consideration and we'll report back in a little while as to what our conclusion is.
Okay.
All right. Thank you both very much.
Appreciate it.
And with that, I think we will go into deliberation since that was our last appearance, and we'll be back in a little while.
Let's see.
So the board has deliberated on the matters before us, including those for which there were appearances today. And I'm going to run through, well, I'll just take them in order. We have them on our chart. Here we go. The motion is going to be that the board proposes to find the following violations, impose the following penalties, or recommended public funds payments and or repayments with respect to the following candidates and the following amounts. Moy Barnes, a 2021 candidate for city council. The board proposes to find a penalty for exceeding the expenditure limit. And the penalty is $3,615. Next, Yi Chen, candidate for city council in 2021. Board proposes to find the violation of failure to respond to the additional document request and impose a penalty of $3,778. Next, Bernadette Ferreira, 2021 city council candidate. The board proposes to make a public funds payment of $247. Next, Bernadette Ferreira, 2023 city council candidate. The board proposes to make a public funds payment of $468. Next, Nathalia Fernandez, a 2021 candidate for borough president. The board proposes to find a failure to respond to the initial document request and draft order report and impose a penalty of $10,000. Next, Jordan Hafizi, a 2021 candidate for city council. The board proposes to demand a repayment of $403.53. Next, Alexander Michi or Miki, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, Alexander Michi, a 2021 candidate for city council. The board proposes to find a failure to respond to the initial document request and impose a penalty of $4,912. Next, Joseph Packer. The board is going to put this off, make no determination today, and put this off to our next meeting to give the candidate an opportunity to produce a copy of the lease that we discussed during the presentation. I should point out that, our staff has asked for this lease numerous times over an extended period of time. And
It's not just the lease, other documents.
and it hasn't been produced, but in fairness, we've decided to give the campaign one last opportunity. And if there are any other documents that are missing, the staff should make clear what they are to the candidate and treasurer, and they should be produced. And to the extent the issues can be resolved, let them be resolved, and we'll expect a recommendation from the staff at our next meeting. Please do not delay. I suggest you get together tomorrow or next week. Don't leave it till the end, and let's get this done to the extent that we can resolve any further issues. And finally, the last candidate on our chart, Maya Wiley, who is a candidate for mayor in 2021, and the board is going to propose a further public funds payment to that campaign of $918,362. That is the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstention, the motion carries. I'd like to make just a brief statement with respect to the Maya Wiley post-election payment because it is such a large amount. Through the thorough post-election audit process, the Maya Wiley campaign was able to provide documentation showing that a set of campaign expenditures are in fact eligible to be paid for using public matching funds, and that a set of campaign contributions from New Yorkers were in fact eligible for matching funds. And I should add that those were contributions that came in very, very late in the campaign process. The board's payment to the campaign in the amount of $918,362 will address outstanding liabilities so that vendors and anyone owed payments from the campaign will be made whole. With that, I turn to the next item on our agenda, which is a vote on some rules changes that were noticed in previous months. Tim, if you'd like to explain what this is before we put it up for a vote.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Schaefer, members of the board, Executive Director Ryan. I'm Timothy Judy, the Interim General Counsel for the New York City Campaign Finance Board. On October 30th, 2025, the board adopted for public comment several proposed amendments to its rules. The proposed amendments were published in the city record on November 5th of last year. On December 5th, the board held a public hearing on the amendments. The board received one public comment related to the proposed amendments. CFB staff is recommending that the board adopt these amendments to the rules regarding disclosure, eligibility for public funds, contributions, payment determinations, penalties, formal adjudication, and special elections. These changes are largely administrative, intended to streamline the candidate experience and to ensure that the rules comport with statutory requirements. If the board has any questions about the staff's recommendations for the proposed additions to the board's rules, I'll be happy to answer them.
Are there any questions?
All right. If the board is prepared to act, the board staff recommends that the board adopt the proposed amendments to the board's rules as final.
I will move that we adopt the changes to the board rules. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstention, the motion carries. Thank you. We're done with our business today. I will make our usual motion at the end. We're going to go into executive session and discuss some matters, but nothing that requires a vote. And so I will move to go into executive session and adjourn directly from the executive session. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstention, the motion carries. Thank you all for attending today, and we're done.